Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. I'm Amra Pajalich, writer, teacher and storyteller. Pull up a chair and let's dive into stories about writing, life and lessons learned, sharing wisdom from my armchair to yours. You can find the episode show notes, your free episode handouts and my how-to guides at amrapajalich.com/podcast. Now it's time to dive in. Welcome to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. Today I'm speaking with Renee Robinson, who's actually a long-time friend, but she also doesn't just talk about sustainability, she lives it. She drives an electric car, she powers her home with her own electricity generation, and has taken the kind of practical steps most of us only daydream about. She's proof that an electrified, low-emissions lifestyle isn't some futuristic fantasy. It's happening right now in an ordinary Victorian home, and we are in that home right now. So her efforts caught the attention of the Victorian government, and in November 2024, her house became the launch site for the State Electricity Commission's new electric home planner pilot, with Minister Lily D'Ambrosio and the member for Eureka turning up to showcase what's possible today. In February this year, she was selected as one of the 20 women from around Australia to be part of the 1 Million Women Envoy to Canberra to convince politicians to support the electrification of 1 million homes across Australia. So she's going to cut through the hype and talk honestly about what works, what doesn't, and what it really takes to live sustainably in a world that's playing catch up. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and welcome to my home.
Yes.
You've been here many times.
I have been here many times, but it's nice to come in and do this focus.
Yeah.
So I'm calling Renee the environmentalist, and this is what this episode is about.
I like it. I like that title.
So can we just, can you walk us through your decision to go all electric at home? What sparked it? And did you always think about sustainability, or was there a particular moment that convinced you to make the switch?
Really good questions. So probably what sparked me to go all electric was the Black Summer. Mm-hmm. And feeling like most people across Australia, just incredibly powerless in the face of so much devastation and destruction, seeing all the animals dying. Absolutely devastating. I think a third of Australia's national forests went up in smoke. We lost so much wildlife, unprecedented losses. I, like so many other people, felt incredibly helpless, and I realised that rather than looking at it on a big scale, I could narrow my focus down to just my household and try and do what little I could to help the big picture, if you like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we've been friends for a very long time. I think it's like going on 3 decades now.
Yeah.
And you have always been environmental in your efforts, but you have been a lot more conscious and a lot more deliberate in the past few years.
Correct, yeah. So it was, for me, it was, I also did it on a budget. So I wanted to prove that you can do it on a very, very limited budget. I had gas heating and gas cooking. And I just decided I was going to, get rid of those appliances and put in electric appliances. It was really, it was easy to do those switches. It cost me, I think, $50 to get a plumber in to cap the gas and remove both of those appliances. Ended up rebuilding my own kitchen as well.
And it's a beautiful kitchen.
Thank you.
Did a great job.
Thank you. Using YouTube. So I didn't have a big budget, as I said, and once the electric cooktop went in, I decided, okay, I'm not going to leave my 1980s retro in there as well. So I just ripped it all out and rebuilt it. And then the electric vehicle, though, took a little bit longer and more preparation. So I ended up buying my EV through the Good Car Company, which they sourced their vehicles from Japan, secondhand. So it was a Nissan Leaf. It still is a Nissan Leaf sitting in my driveway, which I can show you after. I ended up just having to, my car was on its last leg, so I decided I wasn't going to continue with the petrol vehicle, and I just took that leap and bought a second-hand EV from the Good Car Company 3 years ago now. So, yeah.
And like a lot of people who do the electric cars do the hybrid, whether you can do the petrol and the electricity. You are totally electric.
I'm totally electric. So it was a big leap of faith because my parents live 300 kilometres from me, and my vehicle doesn't have a 300 kilometre range. So I actually had to wait another year before EV chargers were in place between where I live in Balan and my parents up in Horsham before I could actually drive my car up to visit my parents. So I was getting lifts from my brother and using other arrangements to get up to see them in the interim. So that was frustrating. I realised that, there was definitely a lack of infrastructure, but I realised that after I bought it. It would have been fine in the city with all the alternative public transport and everything like that, but in rural Victoria, which is where I live, it wasn't an ideal situation. So it was a big leap of faith. And Moorabool Shire is the council that I live in, and to this day, we still don't have an EV charger. So it's a bit of a black hole for EV charging.
So in terms of some practical things when you're wanting to go somewhere, you have to do research. You have to check where there are, like what's the process?
Yeah, so you can download the apps. I downloaded ChargeFox and EV charging apps, which are the main chargers, and so I have to basically look at where the chargers are situated and figure out my route. So I go down to Mornington Peninsula a fair bit to house sit for a friend, and rather than go through the city, I will go down through Geelong and to Queenscliff, and Queenscliff has a charger, Geelong doesn't, and then I think Geelong does now actually, but I generally charge at Queenscliff and then catch the ferry over. So it's more expensive to do it that way, but it's a much more pleasant, less anxiety inducing kind of trip if I do take the ferry and that. But another consideration you have to factor in is elevation. So coming back, I can't make it back on the same journey on one charge, so I've actually got to stop, make another stop at Bannockburn and charge because it's all uphill. Yeah.
Have you gotten into any trouble until you figured that out?
I have run out of charge 4 times. So one of the key things that I did when I first got the car was to get roadside assist and make sure that was covered. But each time has been within a 6-kilometre radius of my home. You
didn't quite get there.
Yeah, didn't quite get there. Once was actually coming back from your place. I know. And I ran out of charge 2 kilometres away. So I could have walked home. But it just didn't make it. Coming from Bacchus Marsh up to Balan, I think is about a 15-kilometre incline, and I was just watching my charge get less, and didn't make it. So I haven't. You do learn those lessons early on, and I do encourage people to get roadside assist. But the EVs that are available nowadays, particularly the Chinese models like the BYDs and the Cherries and stuff, they have amazing range, 300 kilometre ranges, up to 600 kilometre ranges. So they really don't have to rely on charging stations as much as the rest of us. And another thing that you do, you can't predict, but often if you get to a charging station, there's usually only 1 or 2, and if you've got a damn Tesla plugged in, they take over an hour to charge, and you know that you'll be waiting there for an hour for them to get off the damn charger.
Yeah, so that happened to you once when you were coming to
my
house. I'm here, but I'm stuck.
I know. And he was actually plugged in for, I think, 2 hours.
Oh my
goodness. I was just, I was furious at him when he came back. But that's another consideration because we don't have enough infrastructure to keep pace with the electric vehicle take-up. So hence why a lot of people still opt for hybrids, so that they have that backup. Because
in Australia, especially with our distance, it can be really tricky.
Yeah. So probably, in my situation, it's probably if I want to go a long distance, if I want to head, Malakuta, for instance, which is 8 hours away, I would hire a vehicle. I wouldn't rely on public transport. I'd actually hire a vehicle to go on that sort of trip as well.
And I was just wondering in terms of cost effectiveness, so you still have to pay for the charging?
Yeah. So if you're on the EV chargers, it's really, really affordable. It's really cost effective. So, I might pay $10 to charge my car fully. And that's not a lot compared to petrol prices.
And how long is that running for in terms of time?
Because I've only got a 30 kilowatt battery, which is on the smaller range, and that's why I've got a low range, it's really fast. So I can charge in 30 minutes, whereas your Teslas, which have the longer range, their batteries are a lot bigger than mine, so they might be 60 kilowatt or something, and that's why they've got to plug in for about an hour to recharge fully. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's time. And when you have a full battery, how many kilometres are you able to travel on that full battery?
It varies, probably up to 150 kilometres, but highway driving's the worst.
That uses up a lot.
It uses a lot of energy. What's actually better for EVs is city driving. So they call it regenerative braking. So every time you slow down or brake, or you're kind of charging your battery at the same time. So it's much more efficient to drive your EVs around the city than it is on the highways.
And what about servicing and stuff like that?
Good question, because I actually haven't gotten it properly serviced yet. Basically the wheels and the alignment, they're the only... So I haven't had the battery serviced, but because it's a Nissan Leaf, I just take it probably to a Nissan dealership. And I think there's a lot more qualified mechanics now that do deal with EVs.
It's becoming a little bit more...
I think they have to keep pace with, the take-up as well. One of the things early on in Victoria as well was when the Andrews government introduced the road user tax for electric vehicles as well. So I used to have to take a photo of my odometer, and every time I registered my vehicle and show how much I'd used it, what distances I travelled, and I think they charged me 2 cents, 2 point something cents per kilometre. So it was, that was really expensive. That ended up being really expensive, particularly if you do a lot of travelling in it, and that was overturned by the federal courts. One of the EV drivers actually took that policy to the federal courts, and it was overturned, and we were paid back by the Victorian government because they realised that was a law that could only be, that was a tariff or a tax that could only be introduced federally. It couldn't be introduced by the state government. But now the Albanese government's talking about introducing a variation on that, which is going to be a bit of a disincentive, I think, for other people to take up electric vehicles.
What's your theory about why they're doing the disincentives?
Theory is that I think this government's been really disappointing, unfortunately, in terms of their sustainability and environmental policies. I think that I had high hopes for them, and after going to Canberra as well in February, I thought that they'd be a lot more proactive than they are. But the fact that I think just a few weeks out of the, after they won the election in a landslide, that they approved Woodside mining on the northwest coast of Australia, and, basically didn't care about, cultural art, rock art, and, the cultural ownership of that area as well, and the impacts on that. I find that this government's really lacking in ambition for environmental policies and sustainability, and they should be ambitious because they won in a landslide. It's going to take a long time before the opposition can kind of recover and build those numbers to even be, in the running for government. And that, this was an opportunity for them to be incredibly ambitious, and I feel that they have just gone the opposite way. They're playing it safe, but they're also kind of, they're not, I don't know. It's just been really disheartening, I think.
I think one of the things when I talk to people, and I don't really know much about solar energy, but one of the things that sort of come up, especially with people who come from Europe or other parts of the world, one of the things that they talk about is how in other parts of the world there is a lot more solar.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that Australia, which is, the southern country, the one where we get the most sun, that's what we're known for. And yet it seems that there is not much of that going on.
Yeah.
And that there is lobbying happening by, coal companies, by companies who are benefiting from the non-renewable energy.
The Gina Rineharts, etc.
Because it helped me, I think that I've got this right, but there was a point where you were being paid for the electricity that you generated and it went back into the grid.
Feed-in tariff,
And then they started charging you for giving electricity back into the grid. And I just explained that. And then let's talk about that.
I know, right?
You're generating electricity and that you're like, well, release it. I need all of it.
I'll give you some to use for other customers.
We're not going to pay you.
Yeah.
Charge you.
I know, for the electricity that I'm generating. So I've probably got a 4.2 kilowatt system on my roof. And I don't have a battery at this stage because I haven't been able to afford to get a solar battery to store my own energy. That is on my wish list, but again, it comes down to money. So fully electrified home, 4.2 kilowatt system on the roof, EV in the garage. So what happened? It entirely comes down to your providers. So I've been trying a few different electric providers, and this one in particular, Amber, was known for, being really good for people who had fully electrified their home and had electric vehicles and that. And I was encouraged to kind of sign up with them. So I did give them a go, but that lasted probably about 6 months because I realised that they were actually charging me for the solar the energy that I was producing but not using myself because I was at work or I might have been away for a week or something like that. So they were charging me for the excess energy that was feeding back into the grid. So way back, probably, 15 or 20 years ago, the early adopters of solar actually had a feed-in tariff of about 60 cents, 61 cents per kilowatt that they generated. So they were making money from their solar energy.
So if you had that excess and went into the grid, you would get the...
So they were making money. So they weren't getting, they were getting no bills, no electricity bills, and they were actually generating electricity credit on top of that because the feed-in tariff was so high. Compared to today, the feed-in tariff, if you're lucky, is 3 cents a kilowatt.
So what happens with your electricity bills? Like, do you have to pay any electricity bills now?
Yeah, I do. So we all have service charges. So that's approximately $1 a day. So you're always going to be paying about $30, $31 a month in service charge. And I do still get electricity bills. I'm probably averaging between $100 and $150 a month. Because I use a lot of electricity because of my EV. I charge my EV in my garage. I don't have a specific EV charger in my garage. I just charge it on with your general plug. And it's on trickle charge, so it charges approximately 10% an hour. So I do drain a lot of electricity. So I'm probably spending between $100 and $150 a month on electricity still, bearing in mind that $30, $31 of that is a service charge.
You're still, though,
pretty good.
Better off in terms of
100%,
petrol and electricity.
And I've got no gas bill. So if I was still using gas, I'd still get charged gas bills on top of that. And one of the things I did when I got my gas appliances removed was I abolished my gas meter. It's called abolish, because if you leave your meter there, even though you don't have gas appliances and you're not connected, they still charge you a service charge to the property. So you're still going to be charged, that $1 or $2 a day to have your gas,
so still
so
even though you're not using it.
the only way to get rid of that was to abolish my meter. And one of the things that I found with that was I had to go to the Ombudsman because they wanted to charge me $800 to remove my meter. So another disincentive by the gas companies, to get off gas. Whereas now I went to the Ombudsman and I ended up, I think, paying $60 for a call-out fee for them to remove it. But I had to actually go to the Ombudsman to get that to happen. And now Lily D'Ambrosio, the Minister for Climate and Energy for the Victorian government, said that they've actually capped that and they're stopping gas companies from doing that. From charging, exorbitant amounts for people to get off gas. So it is there's fail-safes now in place where you're not going to be exploited by gas companies and prevented from doing that.
And I just wanted to go back to the solar batteries. How much do they cost?
Now they've got really good rebates. Apparently now, federal government rebates, I think now's a very good time to buy a battery. It used to cost about $10,000 to get a battery, and I think now with rebates it just depends on the size of your battery, the kVAs. I don't know a lot about that engineering kind of specifications of them, but I think that with the rebates it could cost you out of pocket maybe $3,000 or something like that. So it's actually a better time to get them. And you can pay them off and everything. So, yeah, I will start looking into that a bit further, I think. Something interesting with the SEC, which the department who came here to launch the SEC planner back in November last year, they're wanting to actually make Balan a pilot town for batteries and solar. So they're going to, we haven't looked at the contracts yet, but I've been through to a few information sessions, and they're going to give us a battery for the first year, but then there's a few little loopholes with that though. They control where the energy that's stored in the battery from my solar panels is going to be diverted. So if there's power outages, they might not let me run my household on it. They might divert it back to the grid or do things like that. Yeah, so I'm interested to learn a little bit more about that program. I think they've still got to iron out a few of the little loopholes. It will be, if successful, it'll be a good pilot program that can be rolled out to other rural community towns that do suffer frequent power outages or brownouts, I think they call it, which isn't a very
I'm not used to that term. That's a term I've heard a lot on American TV, especially New York.
I know.
I have a lot of brownouts, especially during the New York heat.
Oh my gosh, it kind of reminds me of that poop cruise or something.
Don't get me on the poop cruise.
No.
I'm avoiding that documentary even though it wants to suck me in. I just also wanted to ask, I know that you bought your car a little while ago, but prices of electric cars versus regular cars, like what's going on there now?
They've completely gone down. Now's a really good time to buy EVs. And if I had the opportunity, if I had a crystal ball, I probably would have held out for another couple of years, because now you can buy a brand new car for less than I paid for my second-hand car with a better range and stuff. So it's one of those things though that you've got to, it's because I was an early adopter of EVs and that type of thing. It's helped new buyers now with prices and it's helped put infrastructure in place for these new electric vehicle drivers as well. So it's one of those things that you kind of weigh up. I personally would have been better off just delaying it a few years if I could, but I'm still pleased that I did make that switch when I did, because I think it's an important kind of example for other people to personally invest in electrifying their homes.
Why do we need to do that? We've got petrol, we've got electricity.
Environmental emissions. The fact that basically we wanted to get to net zero by 2040, which now I think our federal government's also walking that back, because they've approved Woodside, which can operate for another 20 or so years. they've kind of lost their...
What is Woodside?
Woodside is I think it's an oil refinery up on the northwest shelf of Australia. So yeah, it's a gas refinery, oil refinery. It's one of those for a profit. In the meantime, you can see all of these severe weather events that are a result from...
This was when we had the water deficits, our catchment areas, so going to workshops about sustainability
in the 2000s, wasn't it, when we were in severe drought?
And then it was about composting and trying to look at. So it felt like it was a lot more on the agenda, and now it's kind of gone off, and it's not something that is being promoted as much. I actually had a moment the other day where I was like chopping all these vegetables, and I was like, I should look at composting again when I've got all of these things, and that's what made me think, why aren't we doing these things anymore? Because it was a really big thing about everyone trying to sort of think about sustainability. And I know people at work, someone who built their house, and he does have the solar battery, and he does have rainwater tanks, and he's really made an effort to be sustainable and to bring his costs down also, but also for the benefit of the environment. And so that's the thing,
it's a big personal investment. And when we were in Canberra, it was really interesting because we didn't get to meet Prime Minister Albanese, but we did get to meet his chief of staff. And one of their arguments was that, Australia already has a 40% take-up of solar panels, and, so we're tracking really well compared to the rest of the world. That was personal investment. So that was community-led action. So people invested personally in getting solar panels put on their roofs to try and help the environment. So there wasn't a lot of incentive from governments. There may have been a few state government grants around at the time, but, they dried up pretty quickly. So it's basically people just taking that personal step and investing in it. Means that more than 40% of households across Australia now have solar on their roofs. At the beginning of 2022, the Victorian government became... leaders in policy that meant that no new house builds in Victoria can be connected to gas. So the gas industry is really hurting at the moment, and that's why you're seeing all the lobbyists and all of that type of thing happen as well, because across Victoria, if you're building a new home, you cannot connect to gas. So you have no alternative to be connected to electricity.
And also, in terms of you, so did you do the personal investment in terms of doing the solar panels?
Yeah, I did. I'm still paying it off. So it was a 5-year, paying it off over 5 years. So I've got about a year left to pay off. So that's on top of so I'm probably paying another $150 a month on top of my $100 to $150 electricity just to pay off my solar.
So you're still sort of, and then when you've paid that off, that's when you'll be getting the
That's when hopefully the benefits and that, but one thing that one of the installers, one of the quotes that I got, what he told me was really it just made sense. And it was really, he just said, if you're living in the property for more than 5 years, then invest in solar. But if you're not, you won't reap the benefits until, after that 5 years. So it's something that you've got to weigh up as well. So if you're planning on selling or moving or whatever, then it's probably in the next couple of years, it's probably not a good investment. Save it for your new home. But if you are planning on staying in your house long term, then it is a really good investment because it is a long term investment. Yeah, I do. I've got a couple of rainwater tanks, and that was another state government policy. I think about 20 years ago, you had to have them either connected to your toilets or your laundry when we had the drought and the water shortages in the 2000s. So that was new builds had to. It was law that you had to have rainwater tanks, and then they had to be connected to either your flushing toilets or your laundry to reduce your water usage. And stuff. So mine are connected to the toilet.
So you're really, the other thing that you've done over the years that I just also think is worthwhile talking about, you take your own cutlery, you take your own straw.
Yeah.
You have like a little pack, and so I emulated you.
Yeah.
I bought some of those things, and so you try also not to contribute
to waste,
to that sort of waste.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that you can think of off the top of your head that people could be doing?
Yeah, well, that was one of the things that they talked about with composting, so that you're not contributing to general waste, and you're actually composting all of your food and all of that. So I think it reduces your general waste by about a third. If you can do that, composting is really useful. Down your liquid fertilizer from it, and you can use that. You dilute it. Don't put it on straight, but dilute it with water, and your plants just love it.
Oh, and now that I am doing a lot more vegetables, and doing a lot more cooking, I'm actually looking at how much vegetable, and I'm like, this is something that I should be doing with it, rather than putting it in the bin, because we do the recycling, we've got the different bins and stuff, so we try and do our little things, and it's like, well, that's one step further that we can.
You might, because you go through a lot of veggies and fruit and stuff, you might benefit from a bigger, just a general composting system and stuff. I think that you've probably got the room for that rather than the bokashi. Bokashi's really just for a packing. One thing, when we were up in Canberra, actually, it was interesting because the 20 women in our envoy, we did have people who lived in social housing and lots of renters as well. We had across the age ranges, and they were saying, well, what can we do? Because we can't actually electrify our home personally. What sort of things can we do to, fully electrify our homes? And some of the solutions were really, really interesting, because I know that some have invested in community-owned solar farms. I think one's at Haystacks, Google it, and that was a community-owned solar farm that people were able to invest in, so they get returns on the energy generated by that solar farm, and they're able to pay down their energy bills. So I think you have to belong to a specific energy company, and all of solar input gets calculated by that energy company, and depending on the amount of shares you've got in that solar field, you get that deducted from your energy bill. So that's pretty cool. So that's a solution for apartment living, and it was and for renters as well. So you can still benefit from electrification, but you've got to kind of think outside the square. And also, you don't have to use that gas cooktop. You can go out and buy. Look, I think Kmart's, single induction cooktop that you just plug in, I think they vary between $50 and $90. So you can actually buy an induction cooktop, and you can just put a chopping block over your gas cooktop if you want, and just use that to prepare your meal and just cook on your induction cooktop. So you can get a single or a double. So that's another alternative that you can look at. Change, but it is electrifying your home and keeping your bills low. There are solutions, that are out there for renters and people who do live in social housing, to help you benefit. And I think also the federal government was saying that they are investing a lot of money now into in terms of social housing, making sure that they've got proper insulation and all of that type of thing to keep your energy bills low. We won't mention the kind of pink bat scandal in Victoria all those years ago, but this is, it was a good idea in theory, but probably not, the execution was lacking.
Subcontractors just
or the cowboys
trying to make money off
and stuff. So they've kind of learnt their lessons from that experience, and they are making sure that they get qualified and specialised installers to go out to the social housing and do
that's the thing. Like, I lived in Bosnia where there is a proper winter with snow and minus temperatures, and all the windows are double glazed.
Exactly.
All of the bricks is double brick, because you need to have that proper insulation for the temperatures, Whereas in Australia, because we are the sun country, and weatherboard houses, which are beautiful houses,
charming.
Very charming, but they only work in like the northern part of the country where it's very warm all of the time. And
the old Queenslanders with the deep verandas.
And you want the airflow. You want the airflow circulating as it gets hot and then cool. But in suburbia...
in Ballarat, just up the road, all the little miners' cottages and stuff, you hear people that, buy them intending to renovate them and, incredibly cold, a nightmare to renovate and, get that energy efficiency level up and stuff. So, our housing, and look, to be honest, today I think the quality of housing in Australia is really substandard. It's really poor. It's slap and dash, like more homes. Let's build them really quickly.
And there's a lot of issues coming up. A lot of issues with the developers. And a lot of
100%.
issues in terms of new houses. Like I've spoken to so many people who have had issues with brand new houses.
Yeah. And, you invest your life savings in these homes, and when they fail to keep you warm and fail to keep you cool in summer as well, it's a big problem in Australia, isn't it? It's a massive problem.
I remember, I lived in a brick house. We didn't have any central heating. And I remember sitting in my bedroom, full, covered. I had gloves. I would have to wear gloves while I was reading.
The Donna fingerless gloves?
Yes, no, proper gloves.
Full ones,
because it was so cold.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that that's why I love social media, where you see people who are coming from other places in the world and they come here and they're like, your houses are colder than it is outside. Yeah. It's actually colder in the house than it is when you walk outside. A fascinating thing.
It is. It's a failure. In government policy and regulating building standards. It really is a massive failure. And, I know that there's a lot of pressure on the government at the moment to build more houses because there is a lack of housing supply and that. But do it properly, for God's sake. Stop slapping up these substandard homes and creating problems for owners or renters or residents, further down the track. It's really, it's not good enough. We can do a lot better. You look at, even New Zealand across the ditch, their standards, their building standards, I think, are a lot better than Australia's as well. So and it all comes from government policy and what they allow and government regulations. So, I think we can do a lot better. I don't have double glazing. I would love to. One thing that I've heard is now they've invented, waffle blinds and stuff like that act like double glazing, so renters can actually put them in their homes. And they're quite pretty. They're not ugly, kind of blinds or, the old Venetians and stuff like that. They're quite pretty, but they're called something like waffle blinds. And if you put them up on a window, they're designed to capture the air between the outside and the in and trap it. And hence, act like a double glazed window, but a lot more affordable than putting in new glazing. So look into it, people. I think that's another, another new invention actually that is helping to remediate the building issues that we've all inherited.
So, I don't know, I'm just trying to sort of think. So we've talked a lot about things that people can do. So there are those things in terms of the house, but also things that we can do in our everyday. And, so you're doing these your choices, the electric car, the electric home, it's your personal lifestyle choices. But you also see that part of a broader vision and activism around sustainability and energy.
Yeah.
And you're actually taking a step to not just do this in your home, but to really advocate.
Yeah, and educate other people, help people to do the same thing, because honestly, it is a minefield that you have to navigate of misinformation and choices as well. There's a lot of choice out there. There's a lot of people that offer solar and solar batteries, and how do you choose which one's right for you as well? And it's really daunting, I think, making those decisions, because it's a big investment as well. So I think the best thing to do, I try and help educate people as much as I can, just based on my experiences and what they can and can't do. It is a bit of a bit of trial and error, but my advice is to speak to people who've already done it and who've gone down that path, and what were the pitfalls and what would they tell you not to do so that you don't repeat the same mistakes. And then you're already ahead of the game. You're ahead of me from when I started. If you have spoken to somebody who's already done it, and who's...
You were like a bit of a pioneer, weren't you?
Yeah, but I tend to, you know me, like I am spontaneous and I'm all... I know.
This is why we get along so well.
I know.
We're like, jump in first, figure it out.
Rip my kitchen out, then get on YouTube and figure out how to build a new one. It's like, oh my god.
Because then you've got no choice. This is no longer like, let me think about it. Now there's no going back.
Yeah. I could only afford takeout for so long, and I actually had to get stuck in and do it. But it's and that's been, you know, me my whole life. Actually, I do jump. You know, I take that leap and take that risk, and with the EV as well. Like I learnt about the challenges of having a short range EV vehicle quite quickly. When they couldn't even tow me. I had to be loaded onto a tow truck and stuff back home. Very embarrassing.
You know, that's the thing. We sort of hesitate from doing a lot of things because we're like, oh, I'm going to make a fool of myself. I don't quite know. This is the joy of this age.
Yeah.
We're at the point now where we like really don't care.
Oh, exactly.
And what is failure? And just give it a go and whatever happens.
Yeah. What have you got to lose, basically? And I think there's more to gain than there is to lose as well. And honestly, I had a butt ugly kitchen, as you remember, in there. It's lovely. It looks kind of Scandi, and you know, it's I'm really happy with it. I've got my first ever dishwasher. Never had one in my life. So, enjoying the benefits of that.
Having said that, I'm the same first house that I'm living in now.
Oh, your house is beautiful.
My house is beautiful. I'm very lucky. But first dishwasher ever.
I know.
And now
Game changer. I can understand why people divorce.
Yes.
That don't have dishwashers.
Yeah. And I'm like, you use a spoon, you put it in the dishwasher. I don't care what in the dishwasher. Have you seen those crazy people who have two dishwashers?
I know.
I saw this where it's like the dishwasher where you put all of the dirty things in, and then the other one is the clean. So you take out from the clean one, and then you just keep putting it in the dirty. So there's always one clean one and one dirty one. And I have to say, I did have a moment
where you thought about getting a second.
Oh, where could I fit it?
Because I've watched the latest season of The Block or whatever, and again, it's so over the top. Australian homes are, I think, on average, 30% bigger than most homes around the world.
What do we need it for?
I know, and they've got their butler's pantry, which is a second kitchen now, and they've got their second dishwasher and all of that type of thing, and they got marked down if they didn't have all of this. And I'm thinking, how ridiculous. Then they've got their outdoor kitchen, then they've got this and that. For God's sake, people,
But that's the other thing. Like, I was reading an article about new houses being built now, that the kitchens are really small.
It's gone back to the old way.
Yeah, so some of the new houses, there was this series that was being done, I think in the local newspaper or I can't remember, one of the newspapers. And it was looking at how people are struggling to try and just they don't even have space to do one grocery shop.
Oh.
Because the kitchens that are being built for these McMansions, the kitchens are so small, and it's like the most ridiculous thing. And then I started
So it's out of scale.
Out of scale.
Yeah.
Because it's like you've got these bedrooms, and look, it's nice having a nice bedroom, but considering how much time you spend in the living part of your house, that's really where you need. So I don't know, that really put me off. Then when I started looking at new houses at one point, because you go through those periods where you're like, I want a new house. And then you start looking around and you're like, no. So I started looking around and I was like, oh, yes, there is something about these kitchens.
Yeah.
With some of those new areas.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I remember, back in my 20s, I was friends with a couple of girls who married Irish guys, and every time we'd go round, the boys would always be in the kitchen, at the table, because apparently in Ireland, that's where they didn't gather in the living room. That's where they didn't catch up in the living room. The kitchen was the heart of the home, the hub of the home, probably because that's where the, heating was as well and everything like that. But that's where they did all their socialising and community, gathering. And Yeah, I love that. And maybe, so the small kitchens aren't going to cut it from an Irish perspective either.
I think for any of us, to be honest, it's very important. I just have one more question. Like, in terms of when we think about sustainability, and are there any myths that come to your mind that you want to bust?
Yeah, look, people that bang on about their gas cooking and, I'd never switch to electric or induction or whatever. It's no different. Like, it's, it heats up really quickly. Induction in particular heats up really quickly. And they have the induction in all NDIS purpose-built homes now. I think it's really important as our parents get older as well that they don't have gas cooking because they get very forgetful and leave it on. It's a very, carbon monoxide poisoning is real and it happens. My 90-year-old neighbour used to leave her gas cooking on all the time and we had to remove the knobs because I'd walk in and it'd just be a wall of gas and she didn't even smell it. So it's a problem for, people with disabilities, the elderly, people who have potentially dementia and all of that type of thing. It's really dangerous. But what I found, and this was unexpected, was I don't have an induction cooktop. I've just got an electric cooktop. But I haven't had an asthma attack since 2022, since I switched.
Really?
Yeah, I used to get asthma all the time, and I have not had one asthma attack since I switched to electric cooking. Another member of our envoy up to Canberra, her children used to have severe asthma, and same thing with them. She said they haven't had asthma attacks since she cooked to electric. So it makes you realise how much it's actually emitting into the atmosphere and how it's affecting our breathing.
Which, when you do think about it, now we know about fireplaces, and that fireplaces actually did cause lung damage, and it's the same type of thing. It's an open flame.
Yeah, exactly.
Food for thought.
It is. But other myths as well, it is affordable. Like, you don't have to have a big budget to do it. Just do it step by step. Figure out, what appliance you want to switch first. It could be cooking. You might want to save that to last. You might want to get rid of your heating. The SEC planner that was launched at my place last November, go online and look up SEC planner as well, because what that actually does is it does a bit of an audit of your home, and then it gives you solutions about, which, if you follow it all the way to the end, basically it gives you 3 options at the end with 3 different price ranges, say for a heat pump, electric hot water, and it gives you accredited installers and providers. So it gives you a list of accredited people that have been vetted by the government, not these cowboys that rolled out the pink bats and all of that type of thing. So they're actually all vetted and, accredited by the government. So you can use that planner. You don't have to, but you can use that if you're not sure where to start. It does give you some options as well. Another myth, if a gas company tells you that it costs $1,000 to abolish your gas meter, it's not true.
Fight them.
Yeah, go straight to the Energy Ombudsman, because they won't get away with it.
A lot of times these days, because Renee and I know how to fight and complain.
It's part of our age, isn't it?
Yes. You mentioned ombudsman. You mentioned, you go through actually what rights you've got. Yeah. You put things in writing, so you don't just speak to them. You send an email and put things on record. The story changes very quickly. Because if they have to respond to you in writing, suddenly they're not so keen. They can say all sorts of things to you on the phone, and you don't necessarily have proof of that. But when they have to put things in writing, and I've done some crazy stuff. We've both done some crazy stuff where people try and treat us like idiots. No, you can't do that. And it's I remember once with the Vodafone, something with the phone, they sold me something, I didn't want something and I wanted something else, or I can't remember, there's a case, and I just went, you can keep it. Since you're stealing from me, steal it completely, here's my phone, and I left.
Wow. Well, when I first moved to Bland from Belgrave, I think I was on Optus with telecommunications as well, and I got here and we didn't have an Optus tower. I actually couldn't use my phone. It was impossible. Trying to get me to send them my house sale contract to prove that I'd moved to a town that didn't. And I was like, no, that's, such personal information. I'm not going to send it to Optus. And in the end, I had to go to the Ombudsman as well, just to say, look, they will not let me get out of that contract. I can't carry it over because I have no service here. So it has to be Telstra or nothing. And yeah, so I know, they try. They try.
So the lesson is, don't accept anything.
Yeah.
Fight. And also these days it's really good where if you do enough time Googling and you do enough time going down through rabbit warrens, there's just time that you have to dedicate to it, and that we do all get exhausted.
Yeah.
And there are certain battles we go, I just can't. But where you can, do the battles.
Yeah, and just one step at a time. Like that's my main advice as well. Don't try and do it all at once. Just one step at a time, and it will become easier, and it is affordable. It costs me, I think, $150 to get rid of my gas appliances. I've now got, I haven't got it on, sorry, Amra. I'm used to the cold weather here, but I've got a split system that heats and cools my home, and it's much more efficient than the gas Rinnai appliance that I used to have that never even touched, touched the cold in the house. It was so cold. So it's just baby steps, Bob, and you'll get there in the end.
Lovely. Well, we might go do a tour of your EV, which stands for electric vehicle.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for
My
this
pleasure.
interview
My
and
pleasure.
for giving us all this information.
I hope it helps somebody out there as well. Like it is daunting, as I said, and it can be overwhelming, and it kind of freezes you into inaction when there's so many options and so many considerations to take into account. But just break it down. It's quite easy to just break it down to one appliance at a time and just figure out where you'd like to make that first change. And then, once you get the ball rolling, it kind of like you get addicted to making all of these little environmental steps, and, you carry your metal straw with you and you do these little things.
You feel quite self-righteous.
Yeah, and it does add up. It does help. And, the more people that are on board, the better for future generations like your daughter and others as well. They're going to benefit. It's not just for us, it's for the future generations. It's like that old saying, people who plant trees now know that they're doing it for benefiting the future, because they won't live to see the benefits of it.
So we need to think long term.
That's the key. Yeah. My pleasure. Anytime.
Can you tell us about your car fence?
Sure. Here we are in my, sorry for the mess, my garage. This is a Nissan Leaf. It's a 2017 model. So the way that I charge it is I press a button here that flips open the front charging hatch, and I lift that up, open that, and plug that in. Back to this switch. It's just plugged into a normal wall switch. And so that's trickle charging my car. And if you have a look at the flashing lights on the front of my dash, see those? It's like charging your phone or charging your laptop. It just shows you when the third light stops charging, it means that it's fully charged.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple. And this is only a 30 kilowatt battery, so it doesn't take too long to charge. It probably takes about, on a fast charger, it would take about 30 minutes. But here at home, it probably charges about 10% every hour. So I've probably got another 20% to charge. And then it's fully charged.
Lovely.
So that's what I do, and it doesn't. If I do it during the day when the solar is working, my solar panels are working, it basically doesn't show on my bill. So you time it for when you get maximum sun, and try and charge your car then, and then you won't see it, on your electricity bill in 3 months' time. That's
Lovely.
It.
Thank you so much for showing us
My
that.
pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to Amra's Armchair Anecdotes. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow For more insights, stories and inspiration, from my armchair to yours, remember, every story begins with a single word.